First time we've seen him on camera in a very long time.
Long time.
Okay, joining us now, retired Air Force Brigadier General John Teichert. Thank you so much for being with us. Want to get your take on Trey's reporting, but also want to lead off with this quote from Scott Bessent, because the strategy appears to be taking a new sort of tack toward the economic. Says, watch this space for more announcements coming next week, because we're going to apply measures like have never been seen in the history of economic isolation of a country. They've already pulled a lot of levers. What is left, and could it make any difference?
Jackie, just from the economic instrument of power, we know that the blockade is strangling about $6 billion a month. We know that some of the sanctions are doing a little bit more than that. I don't quite know what the secretary is thinking here, but I think they realize, the administration realizes, that while the military instrument of power did not achieve our strategic interests and objectives, that maybe some more levers to pull in the economic instruments of power could do just that.
So not only did Trey Yanks talk to Jared Kushner today, earlier today, he talked to President Trump, who told him, quote, they should put up the white flag of surrender, Iran. I have no time schedule. I'm not in a hurry. They're good poker players, but they're dying. The president seeming to indicate that, I guess with the price of oil hovering just in the low 80s, about $4 a gallon for regular gasoline, except in California, where it's always much higher than that, the president feels maybe like he's got the latitude to say, look, there's nothing urgent at the moment. We can just kind of let this ride and see what happens with Iran as the economic situation deteriorates more and more, and maybe finally brings the IRGC to the table in a way that they'll cut a deal.
John, you and I have talked about before that the blockade establishes a race against the clock. Whether the pressure on the regime is stronger or the pressure on the president of the United States, both domestically and international, is stronger, the president clearly believes that he has the right leverage here. But there's also the opportunity cost of military forces and large supply that are in the Middle East. And the longer this drags out, while we may have time on our side, it certainly takes a toll on our military.
But much cheaper to keep them there if they're not actively engaged in military exercises, right? Because they're going to be somewhere in the world anyways.
So that is true. And so the opportunity cost would be, where would they otherwise be that could achieve our national interests in a better way? But I do think the president, based on those comments, believes that in that race against the clock, time is on the side of the United States.
Do you think, though, that it's sort of wrong for us to assume that the deadline on the horizon is the midterms, when in fact the president's got 2 more years in office? And you know, just because the midterms are what we're all talking about, I mean, don't the Iranians probably realize that they've got to worry about beyond November?
Well, Jackie, the adversary always gets a vote as well. And so depending on what Iran decides to do between now and the midterms may prompt the president in the United States to return to military operations or to do something else. And so I'm curious to see, as the pressure builds on the Iranian regime, whether they feel that they need to lash out as a result.
So another puzzling thing the president said yesterday, and he said it for the second time, was that if Oman gets in the way of a deal between the United States and Iran, we're going to bomb the S out of them. The president was asked about that in the Oval Office just a few minutes ago. Here's what he said.
You said you would bomb the S out of Oman if they got in the way of reopening the Strait of Hormuz. Would you say you're out of patience with Oman as strategic?
No, I don't think they behave very well, but we'd handle them very easily, just like we do other things.
No, what's Oman been doing wrong? They were trying to engage in negotiations with Iran on the Strait of Hormuz. Apparently, they made their case. Then they turned it over to the U.S. and Iran, and just been sitting on the sidelines ever since.
John, I don't see Oman doing anything that would make them complicit in supporting the Iranian regime. And I would rather the administration focuses on fulfilling the threats they've made to the regime. As an example, in the last few days, 3 tankers have been struck in the Strait of Hormuz. The administration has said there would be a strong U.S. response if that happened, and our credibility is on the line every time we don't follow through on those threats, and I'd rather we focus on that instead of making new threats to Oman.
Yeah, I know that Oman has got a close relationship with Iran, but I don't know what they've been doing to earn that.
Well, I think it's a reference maybe to the reports of some sort of a dual agreement where the traffic going in would belong to the control of the Iranians and going out would belong to the Omanis. You know, obviously that has not taken shape,
no.
But nothing has really. So we'll see, except for, of course, the blockade. More on that later. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Good to see you.
All
right, like the beer.
Thank you.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.